There is traditional imported herbal cannabis. There is cannabis resin. And there's the new product that's materialised over the last 10 years, which is called skunk cannabis. These were the traditional forms that people might have used 10, 20 years ago. And this is the actual form of cannabis that now dominates the market.
This is big business.
This is viewed in the current drugs market as the premium product, whereas this form of cannabis may only sell for perhaps £90 an ounce. This will sell for perhaps £130 an ounce. So there's much more valuable in growing this type of cannabis rather than importing and distributing this form of cannabis.
And in terms of percentages relating to the police seizures, how much is skunk dominating the market?
In today's market, skunk will probably constitute about 3/4 of the drug market for cannabis.
3/4?
Yes.
That shift in market domination matters because skunk, the drug predominantly being grown in farms across the UK, is chemically very different to resin.
The skunk cannabis can be as much as 5 times as strong as the traditional herbal imported cannabis or the cannabis resin, typically maybe 3 times as strong.
And that would be a huge difference to the person using it, one would imagine.
It would be analogous to someone drinking a pint of beer against someone drinking perhaps a pint of port.
Back in Fife, and with the price of skunk sitting at its highest ever, officers are beginning to see more and more people trying to get into the farming business. That means another raid on yet another suspected cannabis farm. There's concern over who the operator may be supplying with this new super-strength drug.
I think I was quite surprised during the briefing to hear that there were school pupils seen going in and out of the house, suggesting that perhaps she may be dealing to them.
There is intelligence on coming into that effect, yes, and that's why predominantly we're targeting the address. Also, we can't allow that situation to continue.
Police! Police! Police, stay where you are!
Police!
Police! Stay where you are.
The suspect, a woman, is in bed.
Have you got any clothes on under there? None whatsoever.
The team start the search and very quickly find a lot of cash, together with what looks like a list of drug clients. And then a more significant find.
These are individually wrapped deals of cannabis resin, which would be sold individually to customers. It's cannabis resin that's been cut up into individually sized wraps, deals for onward sale.
Has she been specific about who she sells to? I mean, part of the intelligence was that she was selling to school children, is
She
that?
has been asked about that, but at the moment she's not saying, but we will be interviewing her further when we get her into custody up at the police station. We'll ask her about these things.
In the bedroom, and officers find evidence that she may not have been content with just being a dealer. A veritable library of books on how to grow cannabis. And in the hall cupboard, everything needed to set up her own skunk farm.
She has just admitted that she has tried growing in the past.
She has, yes.
She's very good at it.
Correct. She's admitted that she has in the past tried twice to grow cannabis but failed miserably, and that as much as she had the wrong kind of plants. But there is evidence here with discarded leaves and fans, etc., that she has attempted it.
Can you open it then?
Just put that over your cuffs unless you're wanting your neighbours to see you taking away in cuffs.
It seems that try as she might, this suspect is no green-fingered gardener, failing to set herself up as a grower. But it's worrying to know that it's possibly only her incompetence which has prevented her from setting up a skunk factory, serving the local children.
The intelligence the officers had before they arrived here today was that she was dealing to school children, kids from the school, just there. I mean, a few hundred yards from this flat, were seen coming and going to this property, and the suggestion was that she was actually dealing cannabis to the kids. Now, it really is the middle of suburbia. It's not the best part of town, it's not the poshest part of town, but neither is it the no-go area that you would imagine cannabis factories or someone who is dealing in cannabis would actually live. And I think the fact that it's so close to the school, so close to where her alleged potential customers were able to walk up from, I think makes it all the more surprising.
Back in Devon, And I wondered whether Kea accepted her part in transforming the accessibility of a super-strength drug to the next generation.
It's something I'll have to live with to the rest of my life, and I would say to anybody that's growing, that's the legacy you're leaving, and you want to be aware of it.
Guilt?
I think it goes beyond guilt. I just hope that my children don't get into smoking hydroponic marijuana, and if they do, who will I have to blame?
Who?
Myself.
So far, the farms we've seen have been in attics and bedrooms. But here in Glasgow's trendy West End, police have been finding farms on an altogether different scale. We can't reveal the exact location, but these are factories which are fueling the skunk market in Scotland.
And the whole property has been completely converted to be used as a cultivation site. And into a room on the left-hand side, and here we can see the scale of the cultivation. Hundreds and hundreds of plants. These ones over here at the seedling stage. These ones here are also at the seedling stage, and the ones that are in the propagators.
But these seedlings are just the beginning. Everywhere police turn, there are more and more plants.
Very healthy plants, properly cultivated. And again, a further growing area. 1, 2, 3 growing areas to the front of the house. The sea of green, a complete room converted into a cannabis cultivation. Growing areas where the plants are heavier with bud, indicating that they are older. And a further room. Again, plants that are heavy with bud, not just quite ready for harvesting. There's a pumping system being used where the pump's dropped into the water, the nutrients are mixed in the bath, and it's fed down through the hose either into this drum, or the hose itself is rolled out to the cultivation rooms where the plants are watered.
To channel away both the pungent smell of skunk and the intense heat from the lights, an entire ventilation system stretches throughout all 4 floors of this giant cannabis factory.
So you come into this area here, what we see is we have a number of growing areas with this series of ventilation ducts running not just across the ceiling but along the floor area, with homemade pipes going into the different rooms. It would be my view that each one of those plants, even the seedlings, would be grown to yield cannabis to the value of approximately £300 per plant.
And all this in a townhouse in Glasgow's West End. So how much cash can a factory like that generate? Well, here in a terraced house near Wigan is probably the only man in the UK who really knows the answer. He and his team produce the only consistent research based on the reports of growers, dealers and users.
At the smallest level, you may have somebody growing 3 or 4 plants in a large wardrobe, which maybe yields about £200 or £300 worth every 3 to 4 months. They'd be used essentially by the grower themselves. The next scale up, you get somebody that's using one room in a house, which maybe yields about a kilo, about £3,000 worth over a period of maybe every 10 weeks, so maybe yield about £10,000 to £15,000 a year's worth. Again, the majority of this would probably be used by the grower, but with a little bit sold on to friends. Then you get this sort of small commercial scale, where the whole property is essentially turned over to growing cannabis, which might yield maybe about 5 kilos per crop, which would be worth around about £15,000 a crop, maybe 5 crops a year, about £60,000 to £70,000 a year. And then at the large scale, you get the industrial scale units or agricultural units, which might yield 30 to 50 kilos a crop, maybe worth £120,000 a time, or maybe about £300,000 or £400,000 a year.
This cannabis factory in the West End was on an even bigger scale than that. 1,900 plants were found capable of producing more than £500,000 every 8 weeks. An operation on this industrial scale needs a massive capital investment up front. There's one business able to do that. That business, organised crime. And that's what's worrying the police.
There's the potential of violence. It's very, very lucrative, very, very profitable. There have been occasions where other criminal gangs have arrived and tried to steal the crop, and clearly individuals will then try and protect their crop. So you could end up having, running violence up and down your street.
Another farm in yet another desirable part of Glasgow. What the police are learning is that it's not just organised crime on a national level, it's now a global business.
What you can see is that there's Chinese, China green tea, Oriental food specialists. These bags have been recovered on a number of occasions, chopsticks in the draining board.
Almost without exception, the community that are involved in the UK are Southeast Asian, Vietnamese and Chinese individuals. Most of those people that are coming into the country are illegal immigrants into the UK, and they're getting the expertise that almost as if they're getting tuition when they come into the country. And that's seen the whole proliferation of these cannabis cultivations. They are making millions of pounds out of this, and this is going towards funding other criminality, including people trafficking, including prostitution.
That people trafficking was evident when police raided this farm in Stewart in Ayrshire.
You can open this door here. Leaves a kitchen area and a toilet. Just in here first. Small kitchen area, obviously they've been cooking, quite clearly smell of cooking. And toilet.
Here, 2 Chinese gardeners were found in the farm. Often individuals like these are locked in and forced to grow cannabis, while the money men take the cash, but not the risk of being caught. It's a cynical and dirty business.
These were organised crime groups involved in murders, violence, prostitution, abductions and torture. That's the people that you go and buy your cannabis resin or the stronger cannabis from. They're not doing you a public service. They're organised crime groups that then put the profits from that into other aspects of criminality. We're getting people trafficked into this country illegally, forced into brothels, forced into the sex trade, almost slavery. So when the next time that somebody thinks about rolling a joint, just think about the consequences that their money is actually going towards funding.
In the last year alone, more than £15 million worth of cannabis has been seized by police from farms around Scotland. It really is, if you pardon the pun, an industry which is growing and growing. So it might be worth asking yourself this: do you know who's living next door to you?